Hey everybody, this is Kirsten here. Thank you so much for being here, tuning into today's podcast episode. And today we are talking about a couple of different things. We're going to talk about fitness and we're going to talk about food. Well, these are not two surprising topics if you have been listening to my podcast for a while. But more specifically, we are going to talk about post recovery exercise. And what I'm going to do today is that I am going to share with you one of my clients' experience, how she has been able to completely change her relationship with exercise and found so much better way to exercise, so much more balanced way to train her body, and she's getting stronger and seeing the results that she wants to see versus what she did in the past, burning herself out completely. So I'm going to share her experience, and then in the second half of today's podcast we are going to talk about intuitive eating and whether eating intuitively should be your goal after you have recovered from your burnout. So today's podcast, especially the second half, is definitely going to be more for those of you who are already recovered. If you are somebody who gets really triggered when she hears anyone talk about calories and macronutrients, then it's probably better that you skip this podcast and listen to something else or do something more that's better for you. But I am going to talk about some calories and something about macronutrients. And like I said, we're going to talk about intuitive eating too and discuss whether or not this is the right choice for you after you have recovered from your metabolic burnout. But first, let's talk a little bit about exercise. And like I said, I want to bring you today one of my clients' experience. So she came to me about 10 weeks ago, and she had actually already recovered. So she didn't have any issues with metabolic burnout. She had already restored her period, but she had started exercising a little more intensely, and she had started cutting back her calories a little bit too much, and she was starting to see some signs and symptoms that she used to have in the past coming back. And this is of course the last thing we want, because we know that we have already worked super hard. Recovering from metabolic burnout is not the most fun thing you have ever done in your life, so you don't want to go through the same trouble again. And she reached out because she knew that if she lets things go on for a long time, this is where she's going to end up again. She's probably going to end up losing her period, which had already gotten a little bit more irregular, and she's going to burn herself out, maybe get other metabolic symptoms that she had before. And so she wanted to figure out how she can eat in a sustainable way, how she can train in a sustainable way so that she can still work towards her goals, feel stronger, feel more energized, and not burn herself out. I feel like a lot of times we think that to feel better in our bodies we have to do something super extreme, and we have to hit the gym 7 days a week and do a lot of cardio and a lot of intense training, and we also have to cut our calories super low. And because we believe this is why the things happen to our health. This is why we lose our periods, and this is why our hair starts falling out, and this is why we get bad GI issues. That's why we are really stressed out. So these are all problems that come out of it, but it is possible to do it in so much better way, so that actually exercise and movement and eating well, so that it improves the quality of your life. And one of the exercises that I do with all my clients is kind of like a journaling and mindfulness exercise. And with this exercise, we go back to our past and we kind of take a look at what our goals were in the past when it comes to exercise. What are the things that we used to do? What were the goals? What did it take us to get there? And then we look at what we are doing currently, and then we're going to set some goals for the future. What do we want to do in the future? So that we can compare the past and the future and see how our goals are different, and that they're so much healthier now. And I'm going to read what she had said in this writing task. She says that my goal and my only goal was to get lean and stay lean. I dieted for a photo shoot, and on the day of the shoot I had visible abs. I weighed X kilograms that day, I forced myself to train every day during the 12-week period. I was on low carb diet with a refeed of 300 extra calories once a week. The training was tough. I found it hard because I was literally running on empty. I would beat myself up about going for lighter loads in lifts. It didn't occur to me that my body was weak and it was impossible to progressively overload no matter how hard I tried. I hated training for that photo shoot. So she says that she didn't realize why she was not making any progress, why she was not able to lift any heavier weights, why she's not even looking better or achieving her goals. And she didn't realize that it was because she was eating very low calories, that she was on a really low carbohydrate diet, and she simply did not have the fuel to use in her body in order to achieve those goals. And she says that I was running on empty, and this is absolutely true. There's no way you can progressively overload if you have nothing to use as fuel. And what is progressive overload? If you don't know, progressive overload basically means that you have to add resistance, you have to add weight on your barbell or your dumbbells, and only then you can create more strength, you can create more lean muscle mass, you can lift better, look better, and all that. But if you're not eating, there's no progressive overload. It just cannot happen. And now she describes what she wants to do in the future. She says, I want to grow muscle and hopefully lose some body fat. Obviously, this time will be totally different to how I trained in the past. This time, it'll be done in a healthy way. And I want you to know that, yes, it is absolutely possible to lose some body fat in a responsible way and not in a way that I described before, where you just take a random low-calorie diet and think that this is what's going to get you there without any bad side effects. This is just not the case. You can definitely lose some body fat, but you have to do it right. And I'm going to read a couple of other things that she says. She said, in the past, I didn't enjoy working out anymore. I was more focused on burning calories so I could maintain my physique. Every session, I would finish with at least 30 minutes of cardio, and on my rest days, I would make sure to complete 60 minutes of active recovery on the treadmill or run 10K. So on her rest days, this was her active rest day. She would run 10 kilometers. This is how she was resting. And we see already now where the problem came from. If doing an hour or more of cardio is your rest day, then of course you're going to run into some issues if you are lifting the other days. And if you finish every lifting session with 30 minutes of cardio, honestly, 30 minutes of cardio alone is a really decent workout. And there's no need to do anything else. But she was definitely overdoing it. And she says, currently, my goals have changed. I think about how I am feeling before I'm going into a session. I'm using the traffic light system when deciding which days to train. My rest days look different too. I no longer do cardio. My aim at the moment is to lift weights 3 times per week. I focus on movement and mind-muscle connection. The plan is to get strong. I'm excited to see what I can achieve. And she finishes, she says, I allow my body to rest. I still prioritize rest, and I won't beat myself up about taking more rest days. There's so many amazing and great thoughts in this section too. She says that, I would never ask myself before the session how I am feeling. She was just going and do the workout that she had planned no matter what. And what we do in my coaching program is that I'm teaching my clients the traffic light system that helps them to understand whether it's a red or yellow or green day for them, so they know based on their body's feedback what kind of workout is going to be good for them today and what they should stay away from. So even if the plan says that you have to do this today, if your body says no, then you're not going to do it. And she says that she wants to lift weights 3 times per week, which I think is a great goal. 3, 4, maybe 5 days a week for a healthy, totally recovered person is a good goal to have, but 3 is actually really good if you know how to do the workouts right. If you're constantly using the progressive overload, if you have some lighter weeks, the program has to be designed well to get results doing 3-4 workouts a week, but you don't have to be in the gym 7 days a week doing tons of cardio and doing tons of HIIT training and running 10K on your rest day. This is just not necessary. And she says the plan is to get strong. I'm excited to see what I can achieve, and I can already tell that she's going to achieve a lot. She's going to have way better hormones. She's going to have way better metabolism. She's not going to beat herself up in the gym, and she's going to get stronger, and she's definitely going to lose some of that body fat because she just does not want to have. So this is a totally new mindset that she has now from all this like beating up and doing more, what I always describe as the burnout mode. So coming from that burnout mode, now has moved through the healing phase. She has moved into the balance phase. If you don't know still what these things are, I'm going to put a link to my free 5-day video course where you can learn all about that. And the change that she has gone through is absolutely amazing and incredible. So if you are in the same boat, if you are where she was 10 weeks ago and overdoing it, or feeling like I'm tempted to overdo it, and I know that on my own I will go and do things wrong again, please get in touch. I am taking on a couple of one-on-one clients now. So if you are that person, if you want to get stronger, if you want to look leaner, if you want to just feel better about in your body, and if you just don't know how to do it on your own, or if you are afraid that you will mess it up again, please get in touch. I'm super happy to help you. I work with a lot of women with exactly these issues, and I want to make sure that all of them get their results and that their bodies stay strong. So this was the first half of today's episode where we talked about strength training. Now in the second half of today's episode, I want to talk about intuitive eating and whether or not this is the right choice for you after you have recovered from metabolic burnout. And intuitive eating, when I use this term here, I don't refer to that book and that framework that is written by 2 dietitians. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about more generally, just in terms of like eating whatever your body is telling you to eat in whatever amounts it's telling you to eat. This is how I use it. Just in like general terms. And intuitive eating, I think it's a great idea. I think we all have been there before. Of course, when we're kids, we ate intuitively. A lot of people are still eating intuitively when they're adults also. Like my mom, for example, I don't remember that she has ever dieted, maybe, but I really don't remember. So I'm lucky that I didn't grow up in this like dieting environment. I picked it up later somewhere. Also my husband, definitely very intuitive eater, doesn't have to track anything or worry about anything, although he has done a couple of diets in the past to have some body composition change, but it never messed up his mind. He just did what he had to do to get his results, and then he was able to maintain them. So intuitive eating is a great end goal, but the problem is that if we don't know how to eat intuitively, then we just don't know, and we sort of have to learn it again. So now if you tell somebody who is just coming out of that healing phase that just continue to eat intuitively and you'll be fine, and also you will achieve your goals, and your body fat will go away, and the extra that you don't want, then it may be hard because people don't know what it means anymore. They just have no guidelines and no structure at all. And just recently I did a video and a podcast episode on how to eat after burnout recovery, so you can look that up. I'm going to link to that in the show notes and in the YouTube video description as well, so you can look it up. It was a really popular video. Looks like you guys needed to hear it and get some guidance in that. So look it up. But in general, what I see a lot with my clients is that we want to have a little bit more structure than just like eat whatever we want, whenever we want. And today I want to tell you about 5 steps that you can start using if you feel like this eat intuitively is just kind of like a very, very vague thing to understand and you don't know what that means. And you can start using these 5 steps in order to have a little bit more structure, to have a little bit better guidance when you are working towards figuring out what your body needs and how much it needs. And I'm going to also share or use my own example when I'm going through these 5 steps. So to give you a little bit of a backstory before I get into these 5 steps, I want to say that when I was recovering from my own burnout, I definitely started eating a lot more. So my recovery took me 5 months. The first 2 months, I didn't change my eating a whole lot, but then around 3 months in, I definitely started eating more because I was thinking, okay, where's my period? Should I do something differently? And I started eating much more, like a lot more. And I didn't pretty much choose. I wasn't like binging, and I definitely was not binging, but I was eating, snacking here and there, which was all beneficial to get me to this place where my period finally came. But the problem was that I took these habits with me to the next phase, which was the bath phase. So it is not a problem if it doesn't bother you, but in my case, I started noticing that I was still gaining weight. So about a year after I had recovered from my AHA and I was feeling really good, I didn't have any issues, really any metabolic issues, I found about a year after that I'm still gaining weight. And I remember being at a store, I was buying a dress for a friend's wedding, and I realized that I had gone up a dress size again, and it was a hard moment because I was like, okay, I'm recovered and I have really good relationship with myself and I'm not beating myself up over gaining more weight, but still, like, why is it happening? I just don't feel comfortable. And no, it didn't make my health worse. It didn't make me like sick or anything. It wasn't like extra weight. I wasn't obese or anything, but just didn't feel right. And as I was standing there in the dressing room, I was like, you know what? I actually really don't like it. Like, can I lose a little bit of weight? Because there's absolutely no reason for me to still be gaining. And this is the first way or first example how maybe the intuitive eating doesn't always get you to the place where you want to be. So in my case, I continued to do the same habits that I did in my healing phase. And the example that I have shared many times is, eating those chocolate covered almonds on my way from gym to home, or then even eating like chips. I'm not a big chips person in general, but I would sometimes find myself just eating tortilla chips like out of the bag, just casually, or sometimes even in my car when it's just like driving and listening to a podcast and snacking. And I just started thinking, is this necessary? Can I do something about it? But this is where my intuition was leading me, right? Like, okay, yeah, sure, have those almonds and have those chips, and it's fine. And it is fine if it doesn't bother you, but for me, it started bothering me. And this leads me to my first step out of these 5 steps that I want to discuss today. Things that you can do if you feel like intuitive eating doesn't really maybe work for you, doesn't give you any structure, and you want to change something. So the first thing that I started doing, and you can start implementing too, is learning more about your hunger and fullness and getting more in touch with your hunger fullness signals and bringing more awareness to your eating and to your food choices. So I started noticing those times when I was just reaching for those chips or reaching for those almonds or just going back to some foods that I had made for dinner, just going back and going back and going back because this was what I wanted to do. Like, I like that. It was my intuition. And so now I started paying more attention to what I actually felt. And I had forgotten to do that. I was never really checking in with myself saying, do you really want it? Or does this taste good? Or are you full maybe already? I would always clean up my plate and then go back for more. But now I decided, okay, I'm going to start asking myself these questions. And I started really becoming more aware and mindful of my choices. And I would ask myself questions, do I want this still? I know it's there, I know it's tasty, but do I need some more? Am I already full? Can I stop eating now? Can I put my fork down and then stop eating right now because I am full? And I just started becoming more aware. And this was one really important step. And I think everybody would benefit from that if they become more aware of their hunger and then fullness and just random habits that are not serving them. The other thing that can go under this mindfulness and awareness piece is that I started taking bites of things. So for example, if I had like a chocolate bar, and normally I would just eat the chocolate bar and not think. So now it's like, I'm going to have, a third of it, or like a bite of it, or like a half of a protein bar, and then see how I feel. And if I still want the second half, a lot of times I did want that second half, but there were some times when I did not want that second half. So I would maybe tell myself, okay, we'll go back in 10-15 minutes and see if you still want it. And I found that I didn't always want it. Sometimes I did, then I had, and sometimes I didn't, and then I did not have it. Now, when I started talking about it back in the day, when I started practicing it, then I would hear from some people that this is way too restrictive. And now thinking back, I'm thinking, how can this be restrictive? Because this is awareness. And if I'm giving myself the permission to go back and have some more, then there's nothing restrictive about it, right? So this was the first step that kind of helped me to get better in touch with my own hunger and fullness signals. The second step that I want to mention is upping your protein and vegetables. So when we are in the balance phase, when we are in the healing phase, we are really encouraged to eat a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of fat. And honestly, if I could go back, I would change that a little bit. And I would definitely say that protein is as important. But back then it was everywhere. Like, you got to get your carbs in, you got to get your fats in. And I understand why, because a lot of women have been on very, very low carbohydrate diets. A lot of people have really avoided fat. And I've shared this number too before, that about 75% of women who come to me or apply to work with me have been on a very low carbohydrate diet. So yes, understandably, we do have to increase our carbohydrates. They're really, really important for our thyroid health. And if our thyroid is not functioning properly, then you're not going to have a properly functioning periods either. And then fats, of course, really, really important for our sex hormone production. So a lot of people have been restricting those. And now in the healing phase, we are really encouraged to eat tons and tons of those things, but we forget about protein. And protein, out of the 3 macronutrients, is the most satisfying. So when you eat protein, everybody knows that it's hard to overeat chicken breast, for example, or it's hard to overeat ground beef, because these things are very satisfying, and protein fills us up faster. And so what I started doing was I started really paying more attention to protein. The other thing, vegetables. The same thing happens with vegetables. When we're in the healing phase, we are often told that cut back on your vegetables. And I get it. There is a lot of truth to that, because if we only eat huge salads, then where are we going to get the calories that we need to actually heal? It's very hard to recover on salads and leafy greens only. It's very difficult. How do you eat thousands and thousands of calories worth of leaves? It's difficult. So that's why we've been told that, okay, eat more rice, eat more quinoa, eat more oats, eat more fats and all that, but we forget about vegetables, or we don't emphasize vegetables as much. So adding protein and bringing back a lot more vegetables is definitely one of the things that helped me to kind of stop that ongoing weight gain. And I really started paying more attention to that. I also had started training a little bit harder, and I needed more protein. So this was the second step that everybody can take easily. Just think about, okay, I'm going to make sure that I have more protein, and I increase the amount of vegetables, because they are high in fiber, high in water. They fill you up, and then you just don't need a lot of these other foods. Not saying that you don't need these foods, but you just need a little bit less of them if you eat a diet that's high in vegetables and proteins. Okay, so these were the 2 steps, awareness and then vegetables and protein. The next step that kind of helps you if you are really confused about the whole eat intuitively thing is that you can start using the plate method. And the plate method is by Precision Nutrition. They have this really simple hand guide that you can use to understand how much of each 3 macronutrient do you need. And I really like about Precision Nutrition that they're always focusing also on micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals. It's not only like get the proteins in and just go. This is not like that at all. But when it comes to macronutrients, the way they explain how to eat a decent amount of all three macros is that you're going to eat one palm size. If you're watching a video, you can see now one palm size portion of protein. That could be a chicken breast, fish, seafood, beef, pork, whatever. And then one cupped hand of starchy carbohydrates like rice, quinoa, oats, pasta, something like that. And then thumb size of fat. This could be any fat source, oils and butters and avocados, nuts, all that, or salad dressings. And then last thing is vegetables. They say fish size, but you can basically have as much as you want. So now this is a really good step between this just eat intuitively and then track calories and track macros, because it gives you enough guidelines. And if you're somebody who has maybe done a lot of calorie counting in the past or macro counting in the past and feels like this is too much, I can't do it right now, you can definitely use this hand guide to make sure that you are getting enough of all three macronutrients. And this is starting to move you in the right direction too, because if your intuition really tells you, like it told me, just eat those chips and then eat like 2 protein bars a day, it just doesn't quite fit in there. And it's not to say that you should never have chips, absolutely not, or you should never have protein bars. Just be more mindful and know that if you follow that plate method most of the time, then you're also going to eat whole nutritious foods that grow in nature most of the time, which is really good for our health. So I personally didn't think about that plate method in such a structured way. I believe that this is what I pretty much did anyways, but I have started using the plate method more and more with my clients, and I find it really a valuable tool that can give you some structure if you are feeling really confused about the eat intuitively advice. Now, the next step is going to be some tracking, and we're talking about tracking calories and protein. Okay, so some people who are feeling ready and they are not afraid of numbers, they don't get super attached to the numbers, and they can see numbers just as a tool, are ready to do it. And with these clients of mine, we can set them some calorie goals and then a protein goal. And high protein, like I already mentioned, keeps you full, keeps you satisfied, and then the other macronutrients, the fats and carbohydrates, yes, it's important to have them both. But if you're still kind of learning this thing, it's kind of like a new thing, it's okay if these two kind of fall wherever they fall. And if we keep the the protein high and have a kind of understanding what our calories should look like, this can be a really good guideline if you are ready for that. And this is basically how I started my own macros when I started back in March. My friend and my coach calculated my calories and macros for me, but she said, you know what, you can just do it so that look at the calorie number and this is what you should aim for roughly. We created a little bit of deficit for me because when I was looking at what I ate in a day, it was higher than what my daily energy needs are. Of course, these numbers always estimates, it's never super accurate, but still I was eating over than that. So now we created a little bit of deficit, and I tried to stay within that calorie number, and then I tried to hit that protein number. And then the fats and carbohydrates, for a long time I just treated them sort of like interchangeably. I'm naturally leaning more towards fats, so this is what we did with me for a long time. And it wasn't until maybe like a couple of months ago when I started doing the macro tracking in a more accurate way. But tracking the protein and tracking the overall calories, if you're ready for it, this can be a really good guideline for you, because it helps you to make sure that you are getting in the most filling macronutrient, that you are getting enough vegetables, and also that you are getting other two macronutrients. And then lastly, we are going to talk about full macro tracking and calorie tracking. I know that this for a lot of women is absolutely like a no, I don't want to hear about it. But for a lot of us, it's actually not. And for a lot of us, it is a good guideline that they want to have, because it gives them this idea, these target numbers. And of course, this is the most accurate way. If you have specific goals, this is the most accurate way and the most kind of sure way to hit those goals. Because if you, let's go back to like this, just eat intuitively. If you just eat intuitively, it's very hard to change your body composition, for example, if you want to do it. And why would you want to change your body composition? For many reasons, like I have covered in my recent podcast episodes too. For some people, it's performance. For some people, it's health. For some people, it's vanity. Whatever it is, as long as you're doing it in a healthy way, and I mean physically healthy, and also in your mindset, this has to be healthy too. I think it's a fine goal to have. So this is the system where you have a number of calories that a coach has calculated for you, and then number of each 3 macronutrients that you should try to hit. And I just want to say that, like I said, many people have this idea that this is the worst thing ever and I'm not going to do it. It's so obsessive. It all depends on your mindset. If you are able to be relaxed about it, if you are able to say that, cool, I'm going to have wine here and there, I'm going to have a few meals out here and there, I'm not going to worry about it, I'm not going to worry if I have a day when I cannot track, but I track most of the time and I hit my goals most of the time, then it's doable. It's just a matter of having the right perspective. And if you are not there yet, if you are somebody who thinks that I have to be a perfect, I have to be so perfect with it, I cannot give myself any flexibility, or else I'm a loser or I'm a failure. If you go into this with this mindset, then it's not going to work for you. It's just going to drive you crazy. If you're able to give yourself a little bit more flexibility, then this is going to work for you and you will see the results that you want to get. So now when we're talking about results and we're talking about fat loss, then with those people who have been through their burnout, I'm very careful with their goals. I don't want anyone to think that they're gonna lose like a lot of weight, so that is gonna put them back into this unhealthy range. No, but we're talking about some moderate fat loss, which that is doable if you are doing it right. And I'm asking you that you don't take a random plan of the internet, random plan of macro and calorie plan that is not designed for you. I'm not simply saying it, but I know how important it is that these numbers are designed for you, that your coach knows your past, that your coach knows your preferences, that your coach knows how to adjust macronutrients, because they have to be adjusted. They cannot be the same forever. This is one of the biggest dieting mistake that I see people make, is that they get themselves like a list of numbers and they think that this is what is going to be forever. And for example, me too, in the past when I used to run a ton, I thought that I'm going to have to eat low number of calories all the time for the rest of my life. But this is not true. Even within 1 week, you're going to have higher days and lower days. And of course, like after several weeks, you're going to have like higher entire week, because you have to give your body a break. And if you don't give yourself a break, this is where you can run into some metabolic issues. And you already know all the symptoms and signs that are telling you that, okay, things are going wrong. So this is... these are a couple of ways how you can start using some structure with your eating. If you feel like intuitive eating maybe doesn't quite work for you, if you feel like it's not giving you the results that you want to get, if you feel like your eating is just sort of out of hand and you're just snacking and your like meals and snacks are kind of blending together, it's all one long day of eating. I've heard that this is how some people describe it. Then these are the 5 steps that you can start using. And the first one was awareness, just becoming more aware of your choices, noticing what you're doing, how much you're snacking, and then asking yourself the questions: do I want it? Am I full? Should I keep eating? Am I satisfied already? Then the second step was to pay more attention to vegetables and protein. The third step was the plate method, where you use your hand to roughly measure your macronutrient portions. And then we get to the more specific side of things, where we can start talking about tracking your macronutrients and most specifically protein and then calories. this could be like a good, simple, easy way to get started with tracking. And then the last one would be tracking, where you're tracking all 3 macronutrients and the calories as well. So like I said earlier too, if you are interested in working with me, I do have a couple of spots open right now. So please let me know. You can leave me a comment on YouTube. You can also send me a DM on Instagram, and you can comment on my blog wherever you are. I'm almost everywhere. So I'm always happy to hear your thoughts and your comments. And also, if you have any ideas, any questions you have, you can always send them to me. And if I can help you, I am going to make another episode answering your questions. So just let me know what you want to learn more about. But this is it for me today. Thank you so much for being here and listening. And I'm going to see you probably in a few days. Thanks so much, and see you soon.